Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're talking about the failing New York Times, who in a stunning new level of anti-white racism decided to hire a new editor who has been openly hating on white people publicly since at least 2013. Sarah Jung has recently been hired by them to be their new tech editor, and as soon as this news broke, reports of her starkly anti-white tweets also came out too. Here's a few examples to get us started. Quote, "Dumbass white people marking up the internet with their opinions like dogs pissing on fire hydrants." Oh, wow. So we're dogs now, you say, Sarah. Very nice. That's good to know. We'll get back to animal comparisons later. The next tweet reads, "Oh man, it's kind of sick how much joy I get out of being cruel to old white men." Wow, Sarah. Just wow. And also, I think they have a name for getting joy out of hating on another race. That's called being racist. And that's exactly what Sarah Jung is. Are white people genetically predisposed to burn faster in the sun, thus logically being only fit to live underground like groveling goblins? Actually, white people are white because our ancestors came from colder, mountainous places with less sunlight. And black and brown people and tan Asians, they have more color because they come from sunnier and hotter and more humid places. This isn't exactly rocket science, girl. And Sarah should know this too. She's actually a Harvard-educated woman, believe it or not. But I don't know if that's a compliment to her or an insult to Harvard when I think about it. It definitely goes to show the racist, anti-white, progressive attitudes that come out of higher education in America nowadays. And it also shows how spoiled Jung is. She's a privileged brat who probably never struggled or was oppressed a day in her life. Next, she says, "I dare you to get on Wikipedia and play things white people can definitely take credit for. It's really hard." Now, I don't really understand this tweet. I mean, there are plenty of things white people can take credit for, certainly. This isn't a topic or a thing I would think of on my own, but if she's gonna bring it up, let's go ahead and jump into it. I mean, just looking around here right now, I can name tons of things. The white people invented the English language, for example. They invented the United States and Twitter even, and the internet. Hell, YouTube was made by white people in California, and that's just me getting started. Even the website Wikipedia, the one this racist Jung mentions in her tweet, that website was founded by these two white guys. So when she says she can't find things white people can take credit for, well, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, lady. Next, in 2014, Jung tried to push the hashtag cancel white people. Not surprising at this point, but the dates here are starting to get a little worrisome for me. I know me, myself, I wasn't very big on race stuff back then, in 2014. 4 years ago, I was just making movie reviews and skits on my older channel. It wasn't until 2015 and 2016 that I started to notice all this feminism and SJWs and anti-white racism stuff. And that's what forced me to jump in and defend myself here on the No Bullshit channel. But it looks like Sarah here was on the cutting edge of all this. She was hating whites before it was even cool. Props to her, I guess.
Everything is implicitly organized around how men see the world. And not just men, how white men see the world.
And the anti-white tweets from Sarah Jung go on and on too, but I think you guys get the picture. But next, the story gets even more interesting when the failing New York Times decided to back up their new editor, despite all of this. Shouldn't be completely surprised since that rag of a paper has been starkly liberal and pretty anti-white for years now, but the way they went about defending Jung was pretty comical, I must say. Here's an article from the Times defending their new hire. It's called "Times Stands By Editorial Board Member After Outcry Over Old Tweets." Check this shit out. On Wednesday, the New York Times announced that they had hired Sarah Jung as the lead technology writer for its editorial board, saying she has guided readers through the digital world with verve and erudition, staying ahead of every turn on the vast beat that is the internet. There was soon an outcry on right-wing websites over tweets Ms. Jung wrote from 2013 to 2015, which referred to white people with terms like groveling goblins and dogs. Love how they try to make that a right-wing thing. No, this is a people-hating racism thing. On Thursday, the Times released a statement saying that it knew about the tweets before hiring Ms. Jung, 30, and that she would stay on the editorial board. Her journalism and the fact that she is a young Asian woman have made her a subject of frequent online harassment, the Times said in its statement. For a period of time, she responded to that harassment by imitating the rhetoric of her harassers. She sees now that this approach only served to feed the vitriol that we too often see on social media. Times said it did not condone Ms. Jung's tweets and that there had been a conversation about her social media history as part of the hiring process. Well, actually, the Times did condone her racist tweets when they hired her. They even admit they knew about them, and they were discussing it before hiring her, but they still went through with it. In fact, they probably hired her because of her anti-white racism. There must have been plenty of other non-racist candidates for this job out there, and from what I've heard, Jung isn't some amazing, talented, virtuoso writer or editor or anything. She's a bland, mediocre diversity hire who only got steam from the attention that she got for being racist and anti-white. She's a left-wing edgelord, essentially. harshly. Well, she was. But now the blatant anti-white racism coming from the left in this country, it's not even that edgy anymore. It's become mainstream, in fact. So mainstream that you don't even get in trouble or chastised for being anti-white. You actually get propped up and defended for it now. And I love how the Times tries to paint her as the victim here too, pretending she was harassed online first and her anti-white comments were imitations of her attackers. Oh please, let's not pretend this was satire or something. That's just a bullshit cop-out from the New York Times. Or the Jew York Times, is what some might call it. And as for Sarah getting harassed for her journalism, I'm pretty sure that was justified outrage for her terrible and racist views on everything. It's not harassment to disagree with a woman, and we're allowed to criticize people, especially if they're a journalist online and they're being bratty little bitches and super anti-white racists. Regardless, probably the best and the worst thing to come out of this whole fiasco is this. The left wing's double standards about racism has been completely exposed. Think about it. Do you think the Times would have hired someone if they said the same kind of things about black people? What if someone was tweeting anti-Jewish comments for years? Pretty much any other race or group besides whites would be protected and defended, and saying some of this stuff about them would make you a racist. Saying something like cancel all blacks would get you fired in a heartbeat, and you certainly wouldn't get hired if you said all Jews are gay losers. In fact, you could say much less and potentially not offensive stuff and still get shit canned. Look at the Roseanne story from a few months back. Here's a pic comparing her tale to Sarah's. Roseanne made a tweet about some Obama assistant no one remembers, and she said she looks like a Muslim mixed with Planet of the Apes, which was also highly accurate, but since the left found a way to make this visual joke racist, Roseanne was promptly fired from her hit TV show. And Roseanne's an extremely talented, proven writer and comedian who was fired over accidentally being racist, supposedly. Meanwhile, Sarah Jung has been tweeting explicitly anti-white shit for years, and now the Times are hiring her and defending her and propping her up and throwing money at her. And Sarah's just some diversity hire chick with no foreseeable skills or following. The hypocrisy here is truly strong with this one. And even more recently, the owner and founder of Papa John's, Papa John himself, was kicked out of his own company for saying something like the N-word is a bad thing to say. But this statement was promptly taken out of context by the leftist trying to take over his company, who slammed him as a racist, fired him, and wiped out every trace of John from the whole company and the store and the website and everything. This was obviously a politically motivated coup in his company, which his detractors claimed was done because he said something racist, when really they just wanted control. And worst case scenario, I mean, would you guys even care if Papa John said the N-word once? Even if it was in a racist context, I'm not even sure they should still be able to take away his whole company and his life's work. But luckily, it wasn't in a racist context. He said it as an example, but they still defamed and dethroned the man anyway. Papa John says the N-word one time and the left pulls it out of context and takes away his job and company. Meanwhile, Sarah Jung is openly and blatantly racist to white people, and her company hires her, promotes her, and defends her statements as satire. This is fucking insane. Sounds like I'm in a Twilight Zone or some sort of bizarro world, but this is real life, folks, and it's super messed up too. I'm starting to think this goes back to the old leftist belief that you can't be racist to white people. They really believe that. They believe that bullshit about racism being power plus oppression, meaning you can only be racist if you're in the majority or in power. It's not true. Minority groups can be racist to majorities, and minorities can rule over majorities too. In reality, this is just the racist justification liberals use in America, because this country is a white majority. Still. Barely, but still. And it's also mostly run by white people too, because we're the ones winning elections and getting voted for. But in their messed up heads to a messed up libtarded leftist loser, not only can you not be racist to whites, but also minorities like Sarah can't even be racist themselves to anyone. Talk about double standards, huh? But as they say, if leftists didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any at all. In the end, I don't think the left is gonna like where this trend is going. All this blatant anti-white racism is doing is uniting whites and other non-racists against them. Sure, they want to call us white supremacists, but really, we're just standing up for ourselves after years of relentless attacks. Like I mentioned before, I didn't think much about race before like 2014. Sure, I knew about racists, and I wasn't a racist, of course, but I really never thought about my own white race that much. I'm a white dude, but that wasn't a big part of my identity. I'm more of an American first, with an Irish-English background. But now, after being attacked and belittled and chastised for my race for so long, now I feel like I have to stand up. We all do. Every race and creed should be backing us up, too. This isn't just a white standing up for themselves kind of thing. This is a normal, moral people standing up against racism kind of thing. If you're a non-racist person, anti-white racism like what's coming from Sarah and the Times should really trouble you. I know I'm a bit upset about it. So, despite people like this trying to tear down whites, in actuality, all they're doing is bringing more and more people together to combat combat against them, against the left. And sure, we seem like nice and easy targets now, but Americans are only nice until we're not. And when you try and mess with my country and my people for so long, you better be ready for some pushback. Nothing too harsh or violent or anything, just some good old-fashioned videos. Smart, funny, well-meaning rhetoric will easily be able to stop this kind of bullshit, and guys, you know, I'm all over it. One more thing before we go. I think I found out the reason Sarah Jung hates white people so much. Here's a pic of her being pretty friendly with a white guy, back when she had her feminist problematic hair, I guess. And from what I hear, this is an old boyfriend of hers who eventually dumped her, or maybe he was never into her at all. So apparently, all this anti-white hatred coming from poor Sarah Bear, it's just about her being rejected by a white guy years and years ago. It's sad, petty, and just plain pathetic. I almost feel sorry for her. And it goes to show the lengths and depths a woman will take after being dumped or rejected. This kind of loser will cling on to this for the rest of her life, hating whites forever and always because she was rejected one time in college. Sure, she makes up bullshit SJW justifications for it, like saying she was harassed or attacked first, but really, this is all about a girl being petty after being rejected. What do you guys think about today's story? Should the New York Times have hired a woman with past tweets that are anti-white like this? Does this prove the left thinks that you can't be racist to white people? And do you think Sarah is still salty about being rejected from this hot white guy? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.